All right, let's get right into it. We're going to tackle one of modern medicine's most fascinating puzzles, a real head-scratcher that challenges pretty much everything we think we know about weight and health.
And it all kicks off with a very simple but kinda wild question.
I mean, it sounds totally backwards, doesn't it? But for years, doctors were noticing something weird in their data, something that just didn't add up. And this is what they call the obesity paradox. Get this, in some groups of people, especially patients who already had heart disease, the ones with a higher body mass index, BMI, they actually seem to live longer. You can imagine this sent some serious shockwaves through the medical world. I mean, was everything we thought we knew about weight and mortality just wrong? Or was there something else going on, a hidden factor lurking in the data that we were all missing? Well, here's the thing. The problem is that medical data is just messy. It isn't clean and simple. It's incredibly complex, and that complexity has been the biggest roadblock to solving this mystery.
See, you're not just looking at two things, weight and survival. You've got this whole tangled web of other factors. Maybe a serious illness is causing weight loss, which then makes it look like being thin is the problem. That's called reverse causation. Then you have to factor in smoking, other conditions like kidney disease. All these things are interacting in really complicated, non-linear ways.
And for the longest time, the statistical tools researchers were using just weren't built for this kind of mess. They were too rigid, they struggled to see these hidden patterns. But what if there was a new way, a tool powerful enough to cut through all that noise and find the real signal? And that, my friends, brings us to the hero of our story. It's an advanced AI technique with, believe it or not, a pretty cool name. It's called a random survival forest. Now, I know, that sounds super technical, but hang with me, because the main idea behind it is actually pretty simple, and it's incredibly powerful.
The best way to wrap your head around this is to think of it like a giant committee of experts, right? Instead of asking one single expert for their opinion on a tough problem, you bring together a huge committee. And each expert, in this case we call them a decision tree, gets to look at the problem from a slightly different angle. And the way it works is actually pretty slick. First, the algorithm creates hundreds of random little samples of the data. Then, for each sample, it grows a unique decision tree. Each of those trees makes its own independent prediction. And finally, and this is the magic part, it just averages all those predictions together to get one final super robust answer. It's that whole wisdom of the crowd idea, but for data. Okay, so that's the theory. It sounds great on paper, right? But the real question is, how does it actually perform in the real world against the old school methods? Well, a landmark 2008 paper put it to the test. What you're looking at is a comparison. Researchers pitted several versions of the random survival forest, those are the RSF 1 through 4 bars, against the traditional gold standard, a model called Cox regression. And they did this across 11 different real-world medical data sets. Okay, here's all you need to know about this chart. The lower the bar, the better. A lower bar means less prediction error, which means a more accurate result. And look at that. In pretty much every single case, the random survival forest methods just crushed it. They were way more accurate.
And this next part is what really shows off its superpower. The researchers tried to throw it a curveball. They started adding useless, noisy data just to see what would happen. The old Cox model? It got confused. Its error rate went up. But the random survival forests? They barely flinched. They stayed stable, stayed accurate. They just ignored the junk data. It's incredible. Okay, so we've got our super powerful new tool. It's accurate, it's robust. So you know what time it is. It's time to unleash it on that big mystery we started with, the obesity paradox. And that's exactly what they did. They took this massive data set, we're talking over 15,000 patients who had all had heart bypass surgery, and they fed it into the random survival forest and basically said, okay, show us what you can find. Show us the patterns we've been missing. And this is what it came back with. Now, I know this chart looks like a lot at first glance, but seriously, stick with me because the answer to the whole puzzle is right here. Along the bottom, you've got body mass index, low to high. On the side, that's the 5-year survival rate. The AI has plotted this relationship, but it also did something the old methods couldn't. It broke it down by other critical factors, like smoking and, this is the big one, kidney function. So first, let's just look at the general shape of these lines. See how on the far left, at a really low BMI, survival is poor? Then, as BMI goes up, survival actually gets better, but only up to a point. Right around a BMI of 25, the curve hits a turning point and starts to go down again. You see that distinctive hockey stick shape?
That right there is the obesity paradox in visual form.
But here's the million-dollar question. What's causing that dip? Why is survival so poor for those underweight patients? The AI found the answer. And get this, it wasn't the low weight itself. The whole pattern was being driven by something else entirely, a variable that was hiding in plain sight, the patient's kidney function. Just look over to the far right of the chart. See those panels? Those are the patients with healthy kidneys. And what do you see? That hockey stick shape? It's basically gone. The curve just flattens out. For patients with healthy kidneys, the paradox completely disappears.
And this is a textbook example of what we called reverse causation. The poor survival rate wasn't caused by being thin. It's that many of those thin patients already had underlying kidney disease, and it was the disease that was causing both the weight loss and the higher risk of dying.
So there you have it, the obesity paradox. Turns out it's not a paradox at all. It was just a really complicated relationship hidden deep in the data, a pattern that was totally invisible to our old tools. It took this advanced AI to finally bring it out into the open.
And that just leaves you wondering, right? If a tool like this can unravel a medical mystery that baffled scientists for decades, what other incredible secrets about our health and biology are just sitting there, hidden in our data, waiting to be found?